When we hear of a house being haunted, our thoughts go immediately as to why. Was it a sickness that took a tragic turn, an unfortunate accident, or perhaps something far more sinister? Whatever the reason, we inevitably link a death in that house to the haunting. But what about a house that is relatively new, with one owner and no deaths ever having occurred on the premises? As we explore the world of myth and mystery, we invite you to the house that shouldn't be haunted.
Search goes on in San Francisco for the man known as the Zodiac Killer.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
A community off northern Vancouver Island is at the center of an eerie mystery. People in Alert Bay say they've been hearing strange screams and howls from the forest at night.
Welcome to the Myths and Mystery Podcast as we explore the unexplained. There are literally hundreds of supernatural podcasts you could have chosen and some really great options out there, so I appreciate you tuning in to this brand new show. I've always been fascinated with the unexplained, whether that was UFOs, ghosts, disappearances, or urban legends. So this podcast is predicated on taking a deep dive into some of the more vague occurrences that most people have never heard of, as well as exploring differing viewpoints, personal experiences from listeners, and explanations from some of the more famous mysteries. But our first mystery involves Laurel Rose Manor. Laurel Rose Manor sits on 104 acres just 45 miles south of Memphis, Tennessee, and right outside of small historic Como, Mississippi, whose Main Street district boasts 32 sites in the National Historic Register designation. Dr. Mike Cockrell and his wife Lisa built the house for their family in 2005. The three-story manor was built as a Louisiana-style southern plantation home, purposefully built with native southern materials including handmade bricks, antique heart pine, and tall cypress handmade doors. The most interesting choice may be the salvaged wood from historical buildings. Could this be the culprit behind the hauntings? It wasn't long after the family moved in that the experiences began. I sat down with the family one night to talk about the things they have seen and heard. This audio was recorded a couple of years ago as we sat around the table, having a few drinks, casual conversation, and you can hear the ease of which they talk about this, and also at the same time, at just how perplexed they were as to what happened. It was a fun interview. I hope you enjoy it. Let's take a listen. Horror stories of this house. Megan does because she sleeps all the lifetime and everything, and sounds good.
Megan's got pinched on the butt before. When? By a little girl in Mom's office. Do you not remember getting pinched on the butt? I remember the story. Vaguely.
Do you remember cleaning my floor in my room and seeing something in the mirror?
That was me.
Oh, that was you.
That was a child.
Oh.
So what was the first thing y'all ever experienced in the house?
I don't remember. Mom hearing stuff.
All right, this is not how this conversation is supposed to go. First of all, this is not stimulating, exciting shit.
Try again.
Let's talk about Halloween.
Last year? Or the year that was the scariest day of my entire life.
Terrifying. Oh my gosh.
When she made us come stay with her, and the doors kept opening by themselves, and the dogs were getting the alarm went off. You came with me.
So Emily, what happened?
I went out to eat with some friends and got a call from Megan saying, "Are you home?" I was like, "No." She said, "Well, don't go home. The alarms are going off. The police are on their way." Okay, parents gone by myself
On Halloween.
on Halloween night. So I get home and walk the police through our house.
Ice is there.
And they checked all the rooms and stuff and just kind of walked around.
That's so
You know what, as I think about it, they didn't go upstairs. Why would they not have gone upstairs to make sure there was no killer in my house?
cool.
Anyways, Megan and Mike came and spent the night with us, and
Mike needs one of those.
we were just chilling out, and all of a sudden dogs were walking around the house. Like the big dogs were like, okay. So we started walking around, the doors were opening, and
So the dogs weren't supposed to be in the house.
No, we were sitting in the living room watching TV, and Delilah comes
I
prancing
remember that.
through, and we're all like,
Where did you come
how
from?
the hell did she get in this house? And the front door is wide open. Wide open. It didn't even beep to show that the door had opened. Nothing.
I just walked in.
She just walked straight in the door. And then the alarm went off again, didn't it, while we were here?
Who else walked in the door with the alarm?
Hell if I know. I was terrified. I tried to get Emily to sleep downstairs with us, and she wouldn't do it. I was like, we need to stay together. We're gonna die.
Who was in here the night we played with the Ouija board? With Anne Marie.
I think we all were.
And we asked,
We were all over here in this corner of the table.
and we asked it,
Who killed my cat?
who killed your cat?
Sarah
It
did.
said Sarah. But it also said, where's the goat? What's with the ghost in the
Tree.
house? And it said the tree. It said the tree.
The tree what, out front?
I think so. It just said the tree.
It was the hanging tree. In 1862, there was a big uproar in town. I'm sure there probably
That's
was.
how all ghost stories started.
I'm gonna
with the
leave that shit on
lies.
there.
We can throw that in there.
Well, my first experience was I went to bed one night and came back to get some water. There was a man sitting on the couch. He was a black man, and he was tall and he was skinny. And when I saw him, I looked at him, and he turned, and I turned around, and I went back to the bedroom and said, "Oh my God, I just saw somebody on the couch." Mike said, "That's okay."
That's okay. You're just losing your
So
mind.
understanding.
Go back to bed. He's like, oh,
If they're here, that's fine. We cohabitate.
yes.
So I just left it alone. But after that, whenever something changed in the house, we would hear things falling down the stairs. Like, really
Footsteps.
falling down the stairs.
Footsteps all the time.
Footsteps. Do I? What are you saying?
Nothing.
But when one of the kids would move out, you would hear. I mean, I would get up and run.
No, I knew.
Oh my God, somebody fell down the stairs. Nobody there. Never.
Dad walked into that dust thing that one day, or what you thought was whatever. I don't
Mom's
remember
done that a couple of times.
I don't remember what.
Like you walk into something.
What about the table?
Yeah, we just had not too long ago. She had that experience.
Walk.
Tell it.
She walked around the corner of the table and felt like something had. She
Got
walked
her
through
face.
something. Yeah, there's nothing
Something.
there.
Something just flat. It was like a gnat, like a bunch of gnats. You know, when you're walking, you walk into them, and
Or like a
you
smoke
can.
cloud.
Or a
'Cause
smoke
I've done that
cloud.
here, and you can smell something.
done
It's
that a
like you're
couple of
walking
times.
through smoke.
Yeah. Well, that day, clearly, as I walked to Mike, I walked through it and I stopped, and it even took my breath a little. He was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I just walked through something." He was like, "It's okay."
It's all okay, baby.
That's all you're saying.
My favorite story is Mr. Wade and Miss Jenny here
Oh.
cleaning one day up on the second floor. And
Now, who were they?
They were the black couple that cleaned our house for a while. And they were here one day and they were cleaning. And they came downstairs with Lisa here, and Mr. Wade asked Lisa, "Miss Lisa, you've been messing with us?" She's like, "I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Wade." He said, "Well, we walked into Sarah's room to do some cleaning, and something asked us, 'What are you doing here, darky?'"
Oh,
And
wow.
Remember that.
He said, "We heard it just as clear as it was. We thought you were doing it over the intercom."
And I told him I would never, ever say that. I mean, I would have picked at him, but I would have never said that. And they heard it.
Just as clear as day.
Yeah, they left pretty quick that day. Didn't stay much longer after that.
Yeah.
Well, I really did. Just got it spooked in pretty good, then. Jeez.
It's real. I mean, this isn't just chance encounters. I mean, it's
Too many occurrences.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Because the dust thing Lisa experienced, you experienced coming out of the third floor?
No,
Was that
No,
where
it
it
was
was?
here, right here
Was
at
it
this
here?
table.
No, I mean when you did it, when you experienced it the first time. I thought I heard an
out
episode.
of the movie room.
Yeah, movie room.
Yeah, I walked through the movie theater, the movie room upstairs is when I did it. And it's almost like you caught a glimpse of something out of your face, and then it's like you're in a cobweb almost. It's like you just keep on easing out the door.
There you go. Just keep on rolling, never slow
Going
down.
back and just keep on walking.
No, sleep.
It's all right. There's been quite a few of those instances.
Because y'all are the original builders of this house, so what would the ghost have come from? Could it come with this timber?
Beams.
Property.
Our suspicion is it comes from the beams in the house because they were harvested from an old mill in North Carolina.
First textile mill that had electricity.
It was
North
designed and
Carolina.
developed, I think, by Thomas Edison. in that article. I can't remember the details now. It's been so long.
There have been some ghost stories that people have shared and spread down the time that the textile mills used immigrant children, undocumented children, to work in them. And they had the big kilts that they burned, and that if a child died, then instead of reporting it, they actually would just burn the children in the kilts.
Toss them in a kiln.
Oh, wow.
As they fired the wood. So the suspicion is those spirits get trapped in the wood, and they just move wherever the wood's at.
So all this land was trees and shit when y'all first got it, or it was...
There was a lot of trees on it when we first got it. It was still open, a lot of open pasture, but there were a lot of trees on the back.
You're saying there was no manors or anything around this area?
The only thing that we have
There's
on this
an old
property,
barn.
there was an old barn. Actually, the barn that's still sitting here is an original barn, so it's...
So you don't know what could have happened in that, though.
The
And
dairy
then-
barn was there, and then there was an old foundation where a barn had blown down or had just rotted down out back where we have our little gardens out there. Because every now and then when we till out there, we still dig up rocks and pieces of metal and that kind of stuff.
And
Yeah.
bricks.
And bricks.
that we've actually traced down to the brick keepers. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, we found that one. I forget what company it was made from.
But it's been closed down for 70 years.
So,
But then right next door, 3 miles that way, is where the old Japanese war camp
3 miles.
was.
No, it's across railroad tracks.
Is that close?
Yeah,
Ooh.
literally, it's on Martin's land. The
Oh.
Jap camp was.
But you've been hearing voices for years.
Yeah.
Like after
That has
we would
nothing
go
to
to
do with the
school. No, in the house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Every time she'd be alone, she would think that someone else was here.
Oh, people call me, yeah. And
All
honestly,
the time. I mean,
yeah.
to the point where it doesn't even bother you anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't. So I don't ever, I don't ever answer anything. I don't think you probably should. So,
She does that sometimes.
Well, they're
though.
friendlier. They would have scared us off already.
well, I mean, my theory is, if I hear something or there's something here, am I really going to question it? Why are you here? I mean, it's probably a question why I'm here. So just leave
you
it
can
alone.
stay also. That's all right.
We can share. No
Yeah.
big deal.
But it usually only happens when something big changes. When we have company, when we have a child move in or a child move out. I trained Robin Henson, employee. She came and moved in here one time. She came here to train because I was working from home, and she was here the very first day we heard something fall down the stairs. So she was here, she heard that day. So we both ran to the stairs because I had a cat. We thought the cat had fallen, it wasn't a cat. So I told her the little story. She was like, okay, I kind of believe in ghosts. So we're sitting there a couple hours later, and the front door comes blasting open. Just no wind, nothing, just the wind opens, and she was like, oh my gosh. I was like, it's okay, it's okay. Then when we sat back down at the computer, my door in my office opened. And I told her, I said, if something comes in, something has to go out. So, I mean, anyway, she didn't train with us long. She didn't stay with us long either.
Probably for other reasons as well.
Had nothing to do with the ghost.
I tend to run off who I don't want to keep.
Maybe you are the ghost here.
And did I tell you about the noises, the chair I keep hearing moving in the break room at the office? Oh, yeah.
Probably that trick
Debbie.
chair.
And it's not the rolling chair, it's those
Oh,
the
dang.
4 chairs that are just on the ground that you have to push
See,
and
but
move.
that's a different story too, because I have a lot of experiences at work after Debbie died.
I do too.
A lot.
I have a
that's
lot of-
completely-
well,
it was
every time-
freaky.
Well, we have
Every
experience
time-
with Dakota every time she comes over here.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Go
really?
ahead, tell the story.
That's all right. I mean, that's it. Every time Dakota comes, something weird happens. The door opens, or she'll say something, and lights flicker. At first, Dakota was a little freaked out, but now she's like, Debbie, what do you want? What are you here for? Whenever Dakota does something, she said that the other day, whenever she does something crazy, like the other day, or a couple weeks ago, she got her nose pierced, and she said that she was sitting in her room, and all the lights started, what did they started flickering, or they started doing something, and said that the memo walked in and said, what did you do? Your mama's pissed.
Well, but the funny part of that story is the night before that she got her nose pierced, that we didn't even know about it. We were sitting here, and the door flew open. We thought Emily was here, and we were like, Emily! And Emily wasn't home yet. So the door was clearly shut. That door doesn't open very often. Come flying open. And I was like, okay, Debbie, what's going on? And then the next morning, I get a text that Dakota got her nose pierced. I was like, she was trying to tell me to call that child. But now, when Debbie died, you were on the phone with me.
Oh, yeah.
We were discussing.
That was weird.
We were discussing what to do about her GoFundMe account, and we were talking about something, and I don't even know how it happened, but all of a sudden the phone, my end, it was like a loud roar, and I don't know what happened on your end.
I don't know, it was like a...
And then the phone just went dead. So
it wasn't like one of those usual hang-ups where you hear the click, and it was like a...
Yeah, and I heard like a roar, like thing, and it's like...
What'd you hear?
That was probably her initial, like, I'm dead. Let's see if I can scare the shit out of
I
people.
know. So whenever y'all send me one of those really funky folders, when y'all lose one of my folders, that has happened before. They'll come home with one of those red folders because you can't find the folder, and something weird will go on. I'm like, Debbie's not real happy with the folders, but we got them all straight now, so she's good.
She does it all the time in her office. The lights will flicker. And then I think that has a lot to do with the fax machine. Every time the fax machine won't work, I think it's Miss Debbie playing. Just not wanting things to happen, because it'll do some weird stuff sometimes, and it's like, okay, can you let my stuff go through now? And I can just see her like, no, not working today.
I did that one day. One day, me and Miss Nancy were the only people in the office, and all the lights were turned off. Everyone had left except for me and her. And someone was calling my name through the hall. I just walked out of my office and walked into Dad's little hallway right there, and
it's like taking a post-coital nap
after
dinner.
I heard it again, and she called my name. Nancy called my name again, and then I walked around the corner. Nancy's not in her office. She was in the bathroom. I was like, I'm gonna go back and sit down because I'm about to have to leave.
Megan, what's your earliest ghost story? What happened when we lived at Mama White's house?
I was...
You and Anne-Marie?
How old?
9.
When did we live in the old house?
Yeah.
That was in 2000, 2001.
So that might have been 9, 10. And I was trying to climb on top of an old barn. There was a mattress propped up against it, and I was trying to climb up and get on it, and someone yelled at me and said something of the sorts of, "What do you think you're doing?" Or, "You better get down from there." And we looked around, and there was no one around, and me and Anne-Marie bolted our tails back to the house. We called Pepaw, we called Dad. No one was around at all. No one. Somebody was looking out for me, though.
But when she was 2 years old, and we were at my mother's house right next door after my granddaddy had died, she got in my car. I had a little Corolla.
Oh, yeah.
And she knocked it out of gear and apparently rolled down the driveway. I didn't know any of this because I was in the house with Sarah. Sarah was only about 6 months old. All I know is this 2-year-old child, 2.5, comes running in the house. Mama, 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 I'm so sorry. He told me to get out. He told me to sit down. I said, what are you talking about? And I look out, my car's gone. And she had knocked it out of gear, rolled across the street, over the hill, through the neighbor's brick, 2 brick things in his driveway, through that, and just stopped. And then walked back across the street to the house. And she said that a man told her to get down in the back seat. Told me to sit down. That was Papa White, too. You should have beat your little nappy tail.
Somebody should have.
Well, when Judy and Leon were living up here, they moved up here to take care of my mom. And the day before she died, Jessica and her little girl Tabitha was there for a visit. And in the middle of the night, probably 2 or 3 in the morning, Jessica woke up and they were in one bedroom. My mom slept in another bedroom adjacent to them. And Jessica woke up and Tabitha was sitting up in the bed. And Jessica's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm talking to Granny." And so she said, "Lay down, girl. Granny's in the other room sleeping." She said, "Granny's right here." And so the next day, my mom passed away that next afternoon. And I think with all my heart that she actually visited with Tabitha that night as she left her body. When her spirit transcended, she stopped to tell Tabitha bye because she was the only one that could still see her.
You know, there's a lot of stories about that happening.
Yeah.
Tons of
them. Anna Mary has one about Ann Parker seeing a man, and the man was in a fireman's outfit. And she told her 2 or 3 times. She said, "Who are you talking to?" She said, "I'm talking to the fireman." And said that she didn't think much about it till one day she was over at her mom's house, and Ann Parker, they walked by a picture, and Ann Parker said, "There's the fireman," and it was her granddaddy in his fireman's suit that she had read, because he had been a fireman in his lifetime, but he had been dead for years. And it was Anna Mary's, I think it was Anna Mary's grandfather, so it would have been Ann Parker's great-grandfather.
Oh, wow.
But, yeah, she had seen the man and was having a conversation with them. She was probably 2 at the time, maybe 3. And she was having a conversation with the fireman that had come to visit.
That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I know August 16th, 1977, my mother woke us up that morning, and we were out, and she was crying, and she didn't know why. So we were talking. She said, "Well, I had a bad dream. It was just a bad dream." I'm like, "Wait," she said, "I had a dream that she was walking down the crossroads, and she came to this, in the woods, and she came to this crossroads, and on a sign it said, 'The king is dead,' you know, and everybody was just sitting there crying and stuff. She didn't know what it meant. Well, later on that day, of course, when everybody finds out that Elvis Presley died, but she had dreamed about it that earlier that night, around when it happened. It's crazy stuff.
It happened.
I worked in the hospital for a lot of years. When I first became a nurse, had not been out of nursing school very long, started working nights. Tina Oglesby was my preceptor, and I came out and I said, because the lady had been totally comatose, had not spoken a word in months. And she sat up in the bed and started talking and was talking about her son. And so I came out to Tina. I was like, "Tina, Miss So-and-so, she's talking. She's sitting up in the bed talking." She said, "Go get a crash cart." I said, "Why?" She said, "Go get a crash cart." I said, "She's talking to people that have passed. She's on her way out." I was like, "You're crazy." And I walked back in the room and the woman had coded. And we tried to get her back, never got her back. But I've seen that happen now dozens of times. So those little people will wake up and they'll start seeing people that have passed on, and they'll start talking to them. And I think they come back for them.
Yeah. Jeannie tells the story of her and one of her sister-in-laws was sitting at her brother-in-law's bedside in Jackson when he passed away. And she said that's what they had. He'd been pretty much the same way. He'd been comatose, I think, for days. And then he woke up one morning and he was sitting there talking to his mother. And she had passed away several years before. And said it wasn't probably 5 or 6 hours later that he died. But yeah, he woke up talking to his mom. It's like, they come for you.
So do you understand now why I don't talk to the people that are here? Never talk to them.
They come to take you back.
I don't mind going, but I don't want to go on the first bus. And the guy that I clearly saw, and it's probably the same person that we've kind of seen glimpses of at times, but the man on the couch that night was very...
Didn't you see a little girl one time? Were you the one that saw that, or you?
In your room, in the mirror. I was mopping.
I thought you saw something upstairs in the mirror.
That was downstairs in Mom's room. I was sweeping or mopping or something, and there was a little girl in the mirror, y'all's tall mirror in there. I just set my things down and walked away.
Yeah.
That terrifies me because I look in that mirror every time I walk through that.
I do too, and that's why I just happened to look over there. I was like, I did. I just set myself down and I left the room.
But you know,
I was like, it doesn't need to be clean.
This land is pretty old, though.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we tend to think of it only as, you know, Americans being here, but, you know, Native Americans lived here for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it never fails that when we're digging, when we're, you know, gardening, we start a new gardening spot or whatever, we dig up old, you know, pieces of, like, plows and hoes and like, bricks and... I mean, so there's all kinds of places that we know there's been things here long before we were.
Yep, so you really don't know what
Who was the
history of
farmer
this whole
that just
land
recently
could be.
dug up the woolly mammoth
That was in Michigan.
in Michigan?
Yeah, that was pretty cool looking.
It dug up bones that looked like it had been. They were doing a soybean field or something, and it looked like bones from a mammoth. Is what scientists have said it looks like. Soybean field full of mammoths.
Yeah, they cleared out all that. They started excavating it. Its horn, tusks were just laid out.
Uh-huh.
It's huge.
Well, I mean, back to the whole Japanese camp thing. I mean, I don't have to look at my stuff, but I really don't think they ever actually had soldiers, but they had it set up during the war to have a Japanese camp to house these prisoners. So, I mean, we don't know whether they really had prisoners there or not and what they actually used it for, so. And I didn't realize it was that close across a railroad track.
It was just on the other side of the Martins. The concrete driveways and stuff are still out there.
Just a tree line.
I don't really want my fourth piece of land early anymore.
You can have the fourth of the pieces right back by the railroad.
No thanks.
I thought we decided that wasn't.
We decided
nothing. Oh, you decided. I decided that you're not getting any of my
The
land.
non-truth.
Made Mom cry with a picture.
Oh, that was not even funny.
There was an app at the time.
And this was at the time that there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
We were seeing a lot. I was hearing a lot. They were calling my name a lot.
And Mom had taken some pictures of me and one of my friends when she was here. We spent the night, and I don't know why we were taking pictures, but we were. And there's a picture of us on the stairs, and we're sitting on the stairs, and all the lights are off behind us, and so it was really, really dark. But there was this app on the App Store, and I just got it on my little iPod, and you could add really faint ghost pictures behind you, or people pictures.
Do such a thing.
It was hilarious.
That's evil.
She comes running here, and she looked so serious. She come running through here, and she came around the car. I was sitting right here, and she said, "Mom, I downloaded the pictures that you got to see this." And she showed it to me. I'll cry thinking about it. And there was this little child.
It was a baby. It was almost like a baby face.
Oh my gosh!
And she bawled. I was like, "Mom, this is a joke." I was like 9 though.
Oh my gosh! It was horrible.
I remember that though.
I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
That's tough.
That's
so funny.
It was not funny.
It
still makes me tear up a little. It was. I cried like a baby. It just really hurt my feelings.
I remember. I like that picture that we debunked of Sarah. Somebody was so scared. Look at this picture. That's a real person. Oh my goodness! I said, no, I got that app. I can add a picture like that, and I added the picture behind Sarah.
I don't know what you're talking
It was like
about.
a Grim Reaper figure in this cemetery that they were like, that's real. That was really taken. I said, it wasn't really taken. And I took a picture of Sarah and zoomed in on the little figure thing, and I stuck it behind her, and I sent it to, I think it was Zach. It's like, hey, look, it's fake. That's
Do you
not
not remember
real.
when we took all the pictures in South Carolina at the cemetery?
When those
Those
orbs.
are creepy.
There are
Why the
orbs
heck did I take those pictures in that
everywhere.
graveyard? That was weird.
There's a ton of orbs.
What
I mean, you can take
graveyard?
pictures all day long and you don't get orbs. I mean, but then
South Carolina, you do.
I have some orbs from out back that I've taken across the pasture.
So, have you ever been on a ghost hunt? You ever actually been on one?
We've been on a ghost tour.
I'm talking about
No,
you're going and actually doing a ghost hunt.
No. I will tell you again. I do not feel the need to look for ghosts or talk to ghosts or question why they are here.
It's so much fun. Scary as hell.
Yeah.
But it's so much fun.
I know.
You don't realize how creeped out you can get until you're actually looking for
Oh, no.
something.
I'm
Because
sure
then
I know.
everything becomes that thing you're looking for.
I can imagine. It's fine. No.
Even normal sounds that you're accustomed to sound odd and eerie and frightening and
No.
all that stuff.
I do
You
that
just
at
need
home
to-
by myself every day. What was that?
You need to spend the night in my house when you're not
Drunk.
inebriated. Are you okay?
I couldn't tell what was happening. He's spitting dip into a cup after he chokes on it because he should not sleep with it.
Somebody choking.
You sound like you're tripping. Okay, you need.
He
Look,
does.
Yeah, Bob.
look. He needs to come and spend the night when he's not drunk one
That's
night.
what I told him. I told him
we
he
did.
needs
We
to
said the
just
same thing
stay
the other night. Yeah, well, you know.
and just listen.
The only time I'm over stay in the nights when I can't drive nowhere.
And honestly,
And then I'm too drunk to notice a ghost coming in and out of here.
you need to stay 2 nights because the first night you're probably not going to see anything or hear anything, but it's going to be the second night that they're going to figure out that there's something different because they don't really do it the first night. It's just when something changes that they feel it. So.
They don't notice something different about a big old tall fat man walking through the house and something's wrong with
Well,
this.
I mean, they may recognize it, but visitors are okay. So I honestly think that's the thing is they understand when something normal is going on, and people do spend the night and you have company and things like that. But when something changes, when one of these children has packed up and moved out, couple days go by and that regular child is not here.
They're recognizing a different energy completely over an extended period.
I definitely think it's an energy thing. So.
That'd be fun.
Come on.
I'd set up my camera up there in that bedroom to sleep away and check it out the next day. It'd be so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
We like being outside. I mean,
I wish I had those now.
Oh, now. Okay, the worst thing, Emily, what's the worst thing Mike ever did to us?
I don't know. You better tell me.
The light in the
The
backyard.
light in the backyard. Megan.
Oh, that was the scariest day of my life. Can I tell that story?
As long as you don't pee on yourself.
We were, was it us three?
Us three.
Okay, me and Mom and Megan were in here doing something.
Cooking or...
And Dad wasn't home
Hanging
yet. Dad
out.
is still at work. It's pitch black outside. And all of a sudden, we see this light in the backyard. Every single one of us immediately go whoosh
This
down to the
big
ground.
old light.
We immediately go to the ground, and we're like
Just
crawling around, like trying,
floating outside.
just going around. Eventually,
We were creeping on the floor, like looking out the window.
I was trying to get to the gun. Megan was trying to get to a phone, and
I was just down. I was like, I'm just staying down. They don't know I'm home. Anyways, Dad finally walks to the door with the flashlight. Hey, y'all, what are y'all doing? We're all like about to kill him. It was the scariest day.
It was not.
Now look, okay, listen to his side of the story.
The guy had been out here painting all of the shutters, and I had to work till after dark. So when I pulled in the driveway, I had a flashlight in the truck. So I just got out and said, I'm going to take a look and see what this looks like. So I'm looking at them, actually shining a light up on the shutters when I walk around, and I walk right through there, and I see all of them go, and it's like, I don't know what is going on today.
It was so dark you couldn't see anything, though.
It was
You couldn't see shadows, you couldn't see movement, you just saw this light, like,
I saw all them
moving
scamper.
around the
Ooh,
yard.
like, yeah, buddy.
I thought if I could just get to my gun, I'm like, Megan, get to the phone. And Emily was just scouring their eyes.
That's awesome.
I just remember, like, peeking over and looking out the window, like, it's still there!
I'm going towards it.
Oh, it was terrible.
Oh my gosh. That was awful. He walked in the house. What are y'all doing in here?
Started out very innocent. I was just looking at the shutters.
You should have let somebody know.
I opened the garage door and drove in. Y'all should have heard the car door ding. Obviously, y'all were having too much fun.
Clearly, way too much fun.
You just heard from the Cockerels. But what about this one from Redditor Sullied Voice? It reads, there is the ghost of a young boy who lives in our house that our ghosts have seen. We rent from the original owner and there is no bad history, but a dozen people have seen him walking around upstairs. I leave my phone on the nightstand at night and I often find hundreds of scribbles open on the notepad when I wake up. Do we chalk that up to just happenstance, coincidence, and overactive imagination? I read an article that stated, how in the year 2021 can somebody possibly believe in the supernatural? Well, I would think that would be pretty evident, because science is yet to prove that it doesn't exist, which lends all the more to the mysterious nature of what goes on after we die, after we leave our bodies. Is there more? You see, we explore all this in Myths and Mystery. Why? Because we truly don't know. We don't know what happens next. We don't know where our bodies go. Is there so? What are our beliefs? What are your beliefs? And yet we know so little. So when you're told that you're crazy for believing in the supernatural, in hauntings, and UFOs, and all these mysteries that are around us every day, don't be so quick to go along with that. It would be different if it was a handful of people, but millions of people have had experiences, and we can't just chalk that up to happenstance. Here's an example from Redditor Croylbird13. One night, my mom heard a crash noise in our kitchen, but figured I was up and dropped something. The next morning, my dad walked downstairs and thought there was ice on the kitchen floor, but he said after looking at it, the ice wasn't melting. It was glass shards. They cleaned up the glass, which was on the floor. countertops and even under the lip of the countertops along the top of some drawers cabinets. It was as if someone stood back and threw a glass object at the wall or something. We had no idea what it was from. The glass was too thick to be any of the vases or glasses, or even some bowls in the house. We had a huge family meeting in the kitchen trying to figure out what happened and where the glass came from. We still have no idea. Fantasies? Logical explanations? What are they? That's what we hope to continue to explore on Myth and Mysteries. What is out there? What is causing these encounters that people have? And quite often, is it something explainable? Or perhaps it's something we don't truly want the answer to. Redditor EM420 writes, "When I lived in Minnesota, I would go over to my friend's house a lot. One day I was sitting on the couch watching TV, and I heard a girl screaming in my right ear. It was like she was screaming at the top of her lungs, but the volume was turned down, so it wasn't the true volume of a scream. There was nothing there, obviously, so I just wrote it off. Well, a week or so later, one of the guys whipped his head around and said, 'I just heard a girl screaming.' We both knew there was no one else in the house. I didn't hear a girl screaming, but then neither did anyone else when she screamed in my ear. I don't think she was mean or bad. I think she was sad, lonely, wanting attention. I felt bad that I couldn't reach out to her. What are these ghosts trying to tell us? Are they real, or is it just our subconscious mind telling us something, feeding off the vibes in the room? How do we know? How do we process it? What is a haunting? What is the source? Science, for all its discoveries and achievements, has so many frontiers yet to be adequately explored, much less explained. Is there a simple, mundane explanation, perhaps supernatural, or is it something far more mysterious and undiscovered? Thank you for joining us this week on Myths and Mystery. Be sure to follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Myths and Mystery. Be sure to join us next week as we walk through the black door on the next episode of Myths and Mystery.